Tomorrow, the Trump administration will start forcing 40 airports to reduce their traffic, likely leading to thousands of flights cut across the country. It's a part of the plan that the transportation secretary says will help reduce pressure on air traffic controllers who are still working without a paycheck due to the government shutdown.
Gradually, the FAA says these airports will have to cut their traffic by as much as 10%. And those include 4 of the largest airports right here in Texas. Today, we are joined by Katie Nastro with Going.com to talk more about how this could impact people's travel. And Katie, welcome back to our show. Thanks for taking time for us today.
Always happy to talk travel, especially when there are so many unknowns and travelers are feeling a little bit cautious right now.
Yeah, so let's dive into that. So we want to note that Austin's airport is not among those 40 places that will have to cut their flight capacity, at least not yet. But how is this still going to impact travelers all over the country?
Yeah, look, this has wide-reaching effects just beyond that core 40 of airports listed, and that list might grow. So we don't want travelers thinking that they're sort of in the clear just because an airport like Austin is not on the list yet. However, the airports that are on the list, they handle U.S. operations for just about roughly 70% of domestic flights. So these are major airports that are seeing a lot of flights daily, especially from the Texas area. So even if you aren't located, like in the Austin area, in an airport that's affected, you are likely transit through one of those airports or have a flight coming in from one of those airports. So there's ripple effects that are all interconnected.
I'm thinking about the amount of times we have had to connect in Houston or Dallas when traveling, nearly every time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, very frequent. Okay, so we know that these large, busy airports that are on the list are being asked to reduce traffic ultimately by 10%. So help us understand the math of that. What will that look like for, say, DFW or an airport in Houston?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of people are thinking that 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the math, specifically when you look at the amount of seats, Dallas, for example, 10% of a day of one flight or its flight schedule for Friday, for example, 96 flights would be cut from the schedule. That's over 13,000 seats per Cirium Analytics. That's rough math, but still, that is impacting a lot of travelers. And so we want people, again, to just be aware that while it's unlikely you would feel the impact if you have a long haul trip, transcontinental, you're going from Texas to, say, New York. However, if you're looking at regional flying in the next few days, that's really where you're likely to see a cancellation.
As we mentioned, we are just a day away from this plan taking effect. But Katie, are you seeing already more cancellations and delays? I'm thinking of all the other issues that have led through the government shutdown with staffing shortages and the flight control towers as well as TSA. So what are you seeing out there?
What's interesting is that for most of October, we actually saw delays just above average. Cancellations basically average, if not below. However, late last week, the combination of the government shutdown impacts, along with bad weather across the country in select areas, that actually was a recipe for major travel chaos. And now compounding it, it's not as sporadic. It's more sort of happening in succession of one issue and another and another and another. So it's becoming more chronic. And so, even with the reductions that are announced, we're still likely to see delays. We're still likely to see TSA long waits at TSA. We've experienced that at Houston over the matter of a couple of days. So I don't want travelers thinking that this is going to be a Band-Aid for travel woes. This actually could be another scratch in the system.
We know that Thanksgiving's just around the corner and others are looking ahead to the holidays in December. So what advice do you have for people who maybe already have a flight booked and they're worried about what could happen with that?
Well, we will say that if you have immediate travel, most of the major carriers, so United, Delta, American, are all offering waivers to be able to make changes to either cancel your flight if it hasn't already been canceled, and then get that refund, or make changes to a future date with no additional cost, which is great if you bought a basic economy ticket, most restrictive. People are looking forward to the holidays and are thinking, oh gosh, is this going to impact that travel? We're cautiously optimistic that it won't, but however, we want people to start thinking of alternate plans, thinking about buying a backup flight on a different airline just in case. Big tip that we love to talk about at Going, book it with points because you can actually cancel very close up until departure, getting all of those points back as well as your taxes and fees. So that's sort of a sneaky way to not have to dish out very pricey last minute tickets during this really just awful time period of unknown.
Yeah, I'd love to leave people at least with that bit of advice to move forward with. But Katie Nastro with Going.com, thanks as always for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, happy travels, safe travels, everyone. Thanks again.
You too.